It's Wednesday, January 25th. Welcome to the Path Podcast. I'm Tani. I'm here with Auk. Hey, Auk.
Hey, Tani.
Welcome. Good to see you.
It's good to see you, too. So today when I walked into the shop, I was late coming from work, and when I walked into the shop, I walked into the middle of a conversation, and it sounded like you were listening to almost like a podcast clip.
Jake, who's here in the room with us, took a trip out to an abandoned mine with Juan, one of our techs.
Right.
And they went camping and they rode their bikes around this crazy scenery. It's like out of this world.
Oh, nice.
And they rode in the mine too.
Whoa.
So it's pretty cool. It's really different footage.
Yeah.
And Jake shared that with our marketing team. And then Ernie, who is on the team, conveyed some feedback. And he did it by, this is something I've noticed as a trend.
Okay.
Like Jesse from Rad Van Bikes does this a lot.
Okay, right.
And I really enjoy it.
Uh-huh.
They're often entertaining.
Right.
And it's something I've started to adopt myself a little bit. And it's where you record a voice memo and send it as a text in messages, in texts.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what he had done. And Jake and I were listening to it.
And so you actually kind of catch kind of the some of the nonverbal cues, even though you're just listening to it, more than just reading.
Or some of the verbal cues.
Yeah, verbal.
Tonal.
Yeah, tonal. Yeah, that's a good point.
And yeah, it's interesting because way back in the 90s, my dad and I, when we'd hang out and kind of toss around kind of serial entrepreneur ideas, because both of us had that mindset. We both like to talk about, like, what if someone did this? What if someone did that?
Right.
And sometimes he would try to start some of this stuff.
Right.
He tried to start a company that he was going to call Vox, which now there is something called Vox, but it's not that.
Right.
And his idea was that people want to send their voice, not receive, and that voice messages are not the right way to, like, having something to catch voice messages isn't the right way to do it. You need something to send them.
Right. I don't want to listen to you. I want to send my own message to you.
Right. So he never got that off the ground. And part of the idea too was that you'd be sending these packages for long distance. His thought was that was back when long distance internationally could be really expensive.
Sure. And
the idea was that you would send these voice memos back and forth, sometimes almost in real time, but way cheaper than talking on the phone.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, yeah, that's kind of just happened. It has come about that with all the available technology, I think maybe he was sort of right about the idea that it is kind of nice to be able to just send and receive voice memos. Yeah, without going to your answering machine or your voicemail.
Yeah, for sure. And sending, that's an interesting angle, because a lot of times when you're sending something, you add nuance, you add like extra context that you're like, oh, they should know this about what I just said.
Right. Well, and we've talked on the show in the past about how voicemail is dead and about how Captain Jim McNeil, Team Captain Jim McNeil,
right.
Made the call in that voicemail when he finally got a smartphone. That was like, I wish I had saved, because it was one of the best voicemails I've ever gotten. But there is that talk, or that is something we've talked about, this idea that voicemail's dead. People don't really like to send and receive voicemails too much. And a lot of times the act of sending and receiving voicemails tends to aggravate people.
Right.
Like, did you get my message?
Right.
Vibes, right?
Right.
People call you back and you ask them if they got their message, and then both people are slightly off put. And
right. But texting.
It turns out maybe it wasn't totally dead. We just had to do it in a different app.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Wait, so do you know, so jumping into the tech of that, because that was really interesting. When I stepped into the shop, I overheard a segment of that voice note, and it seriously sounded like he was having a conversation with you. So there was no dialogue. It was just a monologue of him, like, "Oh, hey, I want to get these thoughts to you."
That's correct. A one-way voice memo.
Oh my gosh. And what's awesome is because he's probably playing off of or recording off of a text that you sent him, or something that he had viewed and then he wanted to communicate.
Right. And if you have an iPhone, it's set up to be able to do this. You don't have to record a voice memo in a separate app or anything.
Yeah, for sure. You just hit that little like microphone?
There's one microphone that will do talk to text, and there's something else, I forget what it is, that'll just start recording.
Oh my gosh.
So
sorry, folks. I got to look at this.
It's a learning moment.
It's a learning moment.
I just tried to check real quick without
really
being too distracted.
Oh, no, that's talk to text.
Yeah.
Sorry, that didn't work. Okay,
I'm just going to hit some news if you want to check that.
Okay, let's hit some news.
So if you want to check out some group rides that the Path is doing, you can go to our webpage, and on the top right, you can click rides. And that's what I did before the show to double check my information. And I thought, I should share that. That's how I got this.
Right.
Night ride every other Thursday. Roll at 6. Right now, they're mostly meeting at Black Star until Uno and her kitten. There's one left.
Oh, that's right.
No longer. We just want to give them some space.
Right.
And watch our YouTube for a really cool. I mean, there's a viral video of the two kittens and Uno approaching a mountain biker at the top of the flag.
Oh,
I don't know if you know that Zach from Live Oak that took that video.
Wow.
And so watch our YouTube for kind of that story soon.
Yeah. Wait, how many views has that gotten?
I don't know, because it's like other people have taken it and it's gone viral on
right.
lots of different channels and feeds. And
cool.
So Thursday night ride every other Thursday. It's rolling at 6. Dawn Patrol every other Tuesday. Lot C at Irvine Park, 7 a.m. rolling. Saturday, February 11th, we're having our rescheduled Customer Appreciation Day. I think it's going to be pretty cool. I know there's going to be a decent turnout. I hope it's not insane. We're going to meet
for the barbecue
and for the ride. We're going to meet
right.
at Lot C in Irvine Park at 8:30. Roll out at 8:30 for a kind of a mellow social pace ride, trail ride, and at Oaks. So that ride will start at Irvine Park and roll through Oaks, and then around noon for an hour or a little more, we'll be doing barbecue here at the shop for any customers who want to come hang out, or anyone else who wants to come hang out.
So would you consider doing like 2 rides to maybe help with easing the single ride pressure? I
don't know. Well, I mean, maybe we'll get our usual 10 to 15 people or whatever, and it'll be chill. Or maybe we'll automatically break up into more groups, or maybe we'll stay in the biggest group. We'll see. We'll see how big it is.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna show up.
I'm still trying to plan the menu, but I've been cooking a couple different things, and some of the things that might be on the menu are my chop salad, which is pretty fun.
Oh yeah.
And the menu will be gluten-free, but you won't notice unless you notice. Like, just if you happen to have a gluten allergy, so do I.
Right.
So I'm going to be cooking gluten-free food, but it's going to be food that would be gluten-free anyway. So you'll like it still.
Awesome.
So there will be various proteins and vegetables on the grill. I'll probably do some artichokes. I like to do this thing where I just kind of parboil them and then basically soak them in olive oil and put a bunch of salt and lemon on them then grill them and kind of give them a little smokiness and some grill lines.
So parboil versus steam?
Par steam is actually what I'm doing.
Par steam.
I think that's a good correction, because I'm using a stainless steel steam basket.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, I pass by the artichokes from time to time, and I think, brings back good childhood memories.
Yeah.
So what do you eat your artichokes with? Do you dip them in anything?
My basic thing that I do, if it's just me, is usually just mayo.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, it's really good.
Just mayo.
Sometimes I'll do some sort of aioli, which is basically mayo, but fancied up.
Right.
I like all kinds of olive oil sauces and butter sauces for it. Sometimes I'll do a lemon butter caper sauce.
Oh, wow.
That's really good.
Is shoyu gluten-free soy sauce?
Normally, no, but in my fridge it is.
Oh.
And that's actually something that the gluten-free version is good still.
Yeah.
It's not a compromise, really.
It's not like soy riso.
No.
Okay. Mix that with the mayo, and then, because that's how I was raised, with the soy sauce and mayo and artichoke hearts. Yeah. All right.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, so good. I'm going to pick some up. All right. So ride. Yeah, that was,
Fontana Winter Series is going February 11th and February 18th. February 11th and 12th that weekend, DHXC and Enduro. And then February 18th
And 25th?
And 25th. I don't know, man. My notes might be wrong. Check out Southbridge, USA.
Yeah. For the...
Fontana's awesome for a local race venue.
And then, yeah.
We have a lot of good memories out there.
We do. Are you even considering going out?
You know, I was really tempted to try to get out there, but I haven't ridden. I've been riding my bike so little, like once a week maybe.
Right.
And I'm really trying to fix that, but I don't even think I'm in like off the couch racing shape.
Well, do you even have a bike that you could?
I think my Transition Patrol would be really good out there.
Oh yeah, that is true.
And you know what I was thinking? I really want to build a downhill bike because I want to have the experience of a downhill bike with Cushcore before I get any older.
Let's do it.
Right?
Seriously,
because I feel like a downhill bike with Cushcore sounds like a special experience that I haven't had.
I just need a frame and fork.
I just need a frame and fork.
That's all.
Would you build it 29 front, 27.5 rear?
I think so.
Yeah, me too.
Oh my gosh.
TR11, maybe?
Yeah, that would be good.
We're thinking about taking a group shot of all the staff with their transitions because we have 10 transitions between us.
What?
I think actually, no. 10 of us have transitions. Some of us have more than one. So.
Yeah, because Brian and Val have their Spurs.
Zach's got a handful of transitions.
Yeah, you have one.
Don's got a repeater.
I have one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not on staff, but I could add to that.
You're on the podcast staff.
Thank you. I'm a friend.
Over the Hump is still going. Speaking of friends, we love those guys.
Yeah.
They're so cool. I really do think they're really cool people. And it shows in that just the vibe at the races is so good.
I agree. Yeah, and we've talked about that. And man, maybe I'll try and get out February 18th and 25th. Are those weekdays?
I believe those are Wednesdays. Tuesdays. Yeah. We'll have you can go say hi to Zach and Tori at our tent. Maybe I'll be out there for some of the events.
Oh, those are Saturdays.
Oh, the winter series is Saturdays.
Saturdays, that's right.
That's cool. I wonder if and that's if you're in Orange County, that's an easy drive at Irvine Lake. Pretty much from anywhere in Orange County.
Dude, let's go.
It's not an easy race for me.
I don't think I'm gonna race.
Yeah,
let's go.
We could go hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Watch Luke. Maybe Luke.
Oh yeah, race. I've been watching Luke. If you're out there, I've been seeing your commutes. He's been commuting on his bicycle.
He's been putting it on Strava or what?
I think so.
How long is it?
I don't know. I think it might be like 16 round trips, so 8 or something like that each way.
Mm-hmm.
But I suspect he's got a pretty structured way that he approaches that commute. Unlike me, it's just a 7-mile slog for me.
Luke does like to break things down.
I think he does.
Yeah. Make a plan.
Yeah.
Structure.
All right. Yeah. So
Jeffrey, one of our listeners, Jeffrey, thanks for sending us a note and asking us to turn the levels up. I got the email and I kind of went and checked out our podcast and some other podcasts, and it seems like the industry standard is that if you turn it all the way up, it should be kind of uncomfortable to listen to, and ours wasn't. So we're
turning the volume up a little bit.
Yeah, we're going from about -8 decibels to about -2.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And hopefully we don't start clipping, but I think Jake is good enough. Jake is really good. He won't let that happen.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, please.
Now, if you heard clipping in the past episodes, it wasn't Jake, it was me.
And we were learning.
We were learning. I was learning, yeah. Totally.
It's good. Did you see that Vital Instagram post about ripping ruts with friends?
No, I didn't.
It's funny. It's one of, I think it's, as of today, it's like their most recent post, right? And they posted it on their stories. And I think it's local. I saw Saddleback Mountain in the background.
Got it.
It's a grassy hillside, and they've kind of burned in some turns, maybe barely built up some ruts,
right? And
maybe put in some little humps to jump, but nothing crazy, nothing that's like BMXy or
right,
like that.
Right.
And it kind of reminds me in vibe of like some of the 50-1 videos, but SoCal.
Right.
One of my like long-term fantasies, I have these like weird, I wish I could do this, or I hope I have time someday to do this, like get a pump track and somehow figure out a way to get a pump track in Tustin City Park. And another one is, how do we create a local slalom race that has over the hump vibes?
Yeah.
And captures the spirit of just ripping flat turns with your friends. And like, you ever like be at a campsite or at a race pit, in the pits at a race, and there's just someone starts burning in a turn?
Yeah. Right.
And then just say a series of that on a hill.
Yeah.
And you see how low you can get your bars, and you see how fast you can get through it, and you see how hard you can rip it. And someone eventually tacos a wheel. Everyone laughs.
Right.
And that's kind of the story of, I liked it because Vital really just told the story that I just told. Someone even down to someone tacos a wheel.
Right. Oh, awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. So that made me want to just get out on my bike with some friends and just like rip some turns over and over again, like the same turn, the same 2 or 3 or 5, maybe jump from one berm to the other a couple of times.
Yeah.
After the turns get burned in enough to do that.
And now might be a good time to find someplace like that.
I would think the dirt conditions are primed for that. Right?
Yeah. I had an experience today as I was getting off of work late, trying to make it here on time. And I was commuting on my e-bike. And I was pedaling along at 27 miles an hour. And I passed a guy on a road bike. And he was probably doing 22 or so. And I was like, I gotta get going. I was like, but I just like eased up a little bit. I'm like, hey, you want to ride? And he kind of like
offered to draft.
And for the next 3 miles, just drafted along at 25 miles an hour, 26 miles an hour.
That's a way to not anger someone as you blast by them on an e-bike.
Yeah, because he sounded really cool as I passed by him. Because as I was passing him, I kind of like, hey, on your left, rider up. And as I passed him, he's like, hey, good work. And I like kind of waved to him, and I was like, and I was like, I'm just going to pull up a little. And I think, it was giving people a ride.
It's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah. So if you guys are ever e-bike commuting, and there's a lot of people out there that are e-bike commuting these days, it's kind of cool to stop and like pull up a little bit, and you don't even have to slow down, except for maybe 30 seconds for the person to latch onto you.
Mm-hmm.
And then away you go, and I've had that experience too. And that's probably what made me think about it.
Oh, you had an e-biker let you take a tow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, he wasn't pulling up.
Oh, you forced the situation.
I forced the situation. But as we got into it, he was pretty cool about it, right? So, right.
That's good. I like that.
Because I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm listening to, a single earbud. And as I commute a lot of times, and I'm just kind of slogging along at a, medium pace. And then people will pass me. And so this guy kind of passed me by, and I was like, I think he's just going fast enough. So then I hopped on, and he kind of looked back, and he kind of did this little thing. And I was like, oh, this is cool.
So overall, on the road, e-bikes aside, what's the etiquette on that? Like if a stranger passes you, are you allowed to just draft, or do you need permission?
Oh, man. See, I actually don't know the etiquette.
Yeah, neither do I.
So here's my take on the etiquette is I think when you're on the road passing anyone, whether it be a hiker, dog walker, commuter on a beach cruiser, group of people on road bikes, you should always let them know you're coming. Like, if you're going to pass them, just ride her up on your left. Hello, happy day. So few people do that. It's so crazy, and it's a pretty big pet peeve of mine.
So if they don't do that, you can for sure draft off of them.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
Noted.
Yeah. So, and if they don't do that, you are definitely enabled to draft off of them if you can. And here's the other thing. I find that the people who call out on your left and what have you are more than happy to have you along. I mean, they're the stronger rider. They're letting you know. You kind of hop on. They talk to you as you're pacing. You talk to them. It is
pretty close. You are riding pretty close to that. It's pretty personal, and there's a little bit of like shared risk.
Yeah, but that is sort of true. That is true. I think the people that let you know they're coming kind of know a little bit of the kind of signaling and letting you know what's coming up. And
yeah,
the people who don't know, it's worth it to hop on anyways.
I like it. I have.
All right.
All right. Next thing. Next news topic.
All right.
We have 2023 Wilds going to show up. I think by the time this podcast is live, we might have one or two, or we will any day after that. And so we dropped all of our remaining 22 Wilds to 25% off. About 7 or 8 of them left.
Right.
Give or take. We had a lot. I mean, that was a great bike for us.
And you should not even wait for the 2023. You should jump on those 2022s. I have one, and
I think it depends what you want, because the 2020, I think for the rider who is a bit of a tweener on medium and small.
Oh yeah.
The 2022 is a good choice because they do that small/medium.
Yep.
And I also think for the rider who's a bit of a tweener between medium and large, the 2022 can be a good choice because the large is kind of almost like a medium.
Yep.
And the new large is like a modern Reach large.
Yeah.
And so basically, if you generally like bike fit a little smaller than normal, the 20 or than modern normal, the 2022 could be a good fit for you. Also, if you like the display on the 2022, which is just different, some people might like that. And then I think too the tighter wheelbase and the steeper head angle. If you're a rider who is riding not very gnarly trails where you're going to benefit from this really slack head angle and long wheelbase, and you want just more of a short wheelbase that you can maneuver around really tight turns and stuff, the 2022 would be a good choice for that rider as well. But also just anyone who wants to save, at this point, what comes down to like almost a couple grand on most of them, so.
Yeah. And you can mullet the 2022 if you want, just like that. It's probably not officially sanctioned.
But Auk did.
I did.
And he ripped that.
I was very happy with it.
Yeah, you were fast on that bike, I felt like.
I enjoyed it. Thank you for the kind words.
And then when I tell someone that too, I do think you're fast, but also fast is relative, right?
Right.
So like that bike was fast for you, I felt like.
Yes. And maybe because I am a tweener, or maybe for whatever reason that kind of slightly smaller medium was good for me.
I also just think you got some miles on it and got real synced up with it too.
That is true.
And it was super low wheelbase with the mixed wheel size on a bike that's not, or low bottom bracket with the bike that's not meant to be mixed wheel size.
Right.
Which I think you and I both like that.
Yep.
Gives us confidence.
Yeah. And it comes with a 160 cranks. So it actually helped with even though the bottom bracket was a little lower than.
Seems like both Orbea and Giant are really on board with this short crank thing.
Man, that is so true.
I'm just really happy about that.
Yes. 155s on an e-bike though, maybe even 150.
I think I need to put another few thousand miles on 160s, and then I'm ready to try 150s again. Maybe.
Yeah. I feel like, especially on an e-bike, I'm ready to jump down to 155 for sure.
I also wonder assuming that we're correct and that bike evolution follows this trend of cranks getting shorter for all bikes and kind of a lot shorter, I'll be interested to see how bike design evolves to maximize the benefits of that, and to like maybe will this long chainstay trend? There's a kind of a trend of longer chainstays.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe if your cranks aren't so long, you don't need such a long chainstay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No,
Just a
that's
thought.
true. Yeah,
Because part of it might be that the closer your pedal is to the axle, the more it moves with the axle over bumps.
Yes.
So
if you pull that back pedal or crank.
So, I mean, I think everyone, like people who follow bike design, I think instantly speculate that as cranks potentially get shorter, bottom brackets might get lower. But I wonder too if some chainstays might reverse the trend of getting longer.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's pretty exciting.
Well, and it would also, but also, if different riders should be on different crank lengths,
yep,
and if chainstay length,
yep,
should be
longer
relative to crank length, then that really validates this movement towards different chainstay lengths on different bike sizes, right?
I totally agree with that.
It's a really interesting idea that really just occurred to me right now on the podcast.
Yeah. So you could, oh my gosh. Yeah,
it's like you scale the ride experience to the rider with crank length with Nathan's hip angle measurement.
Yep.
Do some trigonometry, and then you scale the cranks to the chainstay length.
Yes.
And you do it maybe using a really similar principle, which is what percentage of the rear axle motion is the foot making, is the back foot making up and down, or something like that.
Right. And you could figure out new angles based on the rear, axle to the rear axle to the 3 and 6,
or maybe you scale it such that both crank, like if I'm running 150s and I go over a 1 inch, just all like shooting not real numbers out.
Right.
If I'm running 150 cranks and when I go over a 1 inch bump, my back foot, say just for the sake of argument, goes up 0.2 of an inch.
Right. Then
maybe whatever crank lengths I'm running, it should be the chainstay length should be scaled so that my back foot goes up 0.2 of an inch over that bump. Whoa.
Definitely going to have to get some paper.
But it's kind of the same formula as Nathan's hip angle. It's what distance gives an angle with, if you know right?
For sure.
Yeah. You know two sides and what gives the angle at the other end.
And it's figuring, I mean, the hip angle is just figuring out the right angle relative to some other component on the bike.
Right.
And so this is the same thing.
And for listeners who haven't listened to us talk about this before, I do like these ideas to kind of carry the whole, like a show to be listen.
Sure.
Listen to it and understand. Right. Yeah. So we've talked about this idea in the past. Nathan came up with it a long time ago when helping his lady set her bike up. This idea that if one rider has a ride experience, say a 511 rider has a given ride experience with 170 cranks, and you want to create that same ride experience at 3 and 9.
Yep.
For say a 5-1 rider with, and then you got to know both of their inseams.
Yep.
Right. And so you figure out what crank length would yield the same angle at the triangle that's made by your legs at the top, the point of that triangle.
Right. Yeah, and I think one maybe implicit in that was thinking that past conventional wisdom on that angle was off.
I think that's more my thought that I added to Nathan's thought. Because I don't know. Nathan was mostly, I think he was running 170s or 175s.
Right.
And he's about 5'11". And I think he was just trying to scale Cheryl's ride experience to that.
Yep.
So I, on top of that, feel that not only so I agree with Nathan that we need more range of size.
Yep, I agree. But I see. Yeah, so you're adding
in addition to needing more range,
that angle needs to be like narrowed down.
I think most riders are running longer cranks than they need to.
Yeah,
and that they would benefit from shorter because they would get more leg suspension and ankle suspension and be able to move their hips more side to side and all that.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's also the benefit of less pedal strikes. And if you take it to its extreme, we're getting closer and closer to pegs on a motorcycle. And another big benefit is you're getting less and less asymmetrical in how you're bearing your load, which I think that's good for the body.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, just from a fit perspective, shorter cranks put less stress on the body because less range of motion for all the joints, the hips and the knees.
Right. Do you find that you rip pedal pins out more on one side than the other?
I have not noticed that. You mean like left versus right?
Yeah.
I haven't really noticed that. I don't usually when I rip pedal pins out, it's from riding at 3 and 9. And so it's usually not from an outside foot down in the turn. I guess if I had to guess, I bet it's my back foot that I get more pedal pins off of, which would be my right. My chocolate foot is my left.
Yeah. See, I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, I am more careful not to hit my front foot on rocks. And I'm really careful not to hit my feet on rocks when I'm at 6 o'clock pedal position.
Yes. Yeah. I was on my flats, I had to replace like a lot of pins on my left foot.
Thinking about it, my back foot does bounce off stuff more.
Yeah.
Including too, like sliding over a rock, you always make clear it with your front foot, and sometimes your back foot slaps it.
Yeah, so my left foot is my back foot. Yeah. Yeah, and I was the other day I was riding, and I was like, I hadn't ridden because of all the rain in a few weeks, and I was riding, and man, I was like, my left foot kept slipping off. I'm like, it hasn't been that long since I've ridden flats, and then I looked at my pedal. I was like, oh yeah, that's why. There's like 2 pins left. So, yeah. But I was noticing, on my back foot, I was missing way more pins than on my right foot, which is my front foot.
Makes sense.
So, yeah.
I still got more news.
Okay, let's keep going on news.
Specialized laid off 8% of their workforce.
Oh, I read that.
It's wild. I think we'll see more layoffs in the industry in the next months.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah. I mean, that's going across not just the bike industry.
Oh, yeah. I think Microsoft announced layoffs today or yesterday.
Facebook did it.
Google.
I mean, Twitter, of course. Yeah. It's, that's really interesting.
Sobering.
Sobering.
Yeah. Hopefully. Probably it's always rough to lose your job. Hopefully most of those people find a resilient job market and have marketable skills and all that. Probably a lot of those people do.
Right.
At IBM and Microsoft and Google and Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. Is the shop still hiring techs?
Every February we hit we always have like at least a couple of day backlog of work. And since the pandemic, we've always had at least like 5 to 10 days and usually 2 to 3 weeks backlog of work.
Yep.
Most Februaries, we have this moment in February where we finish all of the open work orders.
Ooh.
And so we use a status system for our work orders.
Sure.
And when a job is ready to be worked on, status gets switched to open. Before that, it could have statuses like call vendor, inspect for quote, waiting for pickup. But I think tomorrow we might
catch up,
finish all our open work orders. And what happens then is we do a lot on the flat work because people always come in every day.
Oh yeah, people instead of dropping off, you're
interesting. You would think that our workshop gets more profitable when we have tons of work, but I think we're actually most profitable
when they're like
all we do is while you wait
because you're
it's
waiting.
So much more efficient.
Yeah.
And there's not go store the bike and then get the bike back out and then store it again.
And we've talked about this recently.
And there's not call the customer and leave a message and wait for them to call back and go store it until they call back. Like you
just described like 15 minutes.
Easily, right? And then also too, you end up selling more work because the customer's right there and
Yeah.
you inspect it in front of them and you show them what you're showing them, and of course they're going to
Be like,
it's just very credible.
okay, yeah. You're like, I'm not kidding you. Like, here. Yeah.
So that's cool. I think also the perceived value goes way up too, because people see how much time goes into it, how many special tools, in some cases, depending on where the job takes place.
And along those lines, the perceived value of when you walk somebody through, here's what needs to be done and here's why it needs to be done, and they get to see it.
Yeah.
That's a huge matter.
So I actually really enjoy that. And so for that reason, yes, I will still hire you if you are a solid tech. And you can build box bikes until we get a backlog of work orders again in March.
Yeah.
By the time this show airs, that'll be not far away.
Yeah. I got to figure out what I need to be done on my bike and bring it in.
Yeah. If you're a Path rider in local, it's a great time to service your fork. And really, riders all over the country.
Yeah.
Most shops at this time have, it's funny.
Yeah.
Every year, everyone comes in May, June, July to get their fork serviced, their
Why
brakes
not come in and
new brake pads.
January, yeah.
And every year we run service promos, $10 off of a shock service or whatever, to try to get people to come in when it's not the high season for this stuff. But now, you should service the suspension on your bike.
Yeah.
You should, if you're not capable of it, you should probably have a mechanic inspect your bike every 6 months to a year. And if you are capable of it, you probably know that you need some stuff.
Yeah.
So,
and, if you've been waiting to change that rear tire with Cushcore in it, it's a great time to bring it in. Yeah. I mean, it really is what a difference a day makes, right? Because here in Southern California, the past, I feel like 3 weeks, it's been raining on and off. And so the number of days that we could actually ride in that the parks are open has been very few.
Totally.
And so now would be a great time to bring your bike in.
Get a little extra attention, get your bike back quickly.
Yeah. And I mean, for myself, it is true that I could do a lot of the servicing, even the hydraulics myself. But man, if you can bring your bike in and not be without it for a while and have it done by trained technicians, and we've kind of talked about the qualifications and what have you in the past, that's hours on your life that you could spend doing other things, whether it be family or otherwise.
Yeah.
So, yeah, totally. I'm going to give some thought to that.
I think with our labor rates, unless you are, I think if you're making the amount of money that most of our customers make with our labor rates, it's a no-brainer unless you enjoy it.
Mm.
And sometimes I enjoy working on my bike. It can be really kind of peaceful and
catharsis sometimes even.
And there's something about that, Dad goes out in the garage and works on something. It's a classic.
That is true.
So that's cool. But if you're not doing it for that reason, or if you're not doing, I think the other main reason to work on your bike is to self-educate. Mm. So if you don't know how to do it, maybe do it. But then you'll really think it's worth it too.
That is very true.
So, and I think too, we bill about $100 an hour.
Okay.
I think compared to a home mechanic who isn't doing it all the time and doesn't have all the special tools and everything out and the muscle memory and all that, I think we're probably roughly 2 to 3 times as fast.
Yes, I would agree with that.
And so if that's true, maybe if you're making less than like $30 or $40 an hour, maybe it's worth your time on a just strictly dollars and cents basis to do it.
Yeah.
Other than that, I feel like if it's really only worth it if it's for enjoyment or if it's for education.
Yeah, I agree.
Or pride. And also trust. I mean, if you're really good at working on bikes, there is that thing of, you did it right. And as much as I really trust the Path and we're trustworthy, I would agree that the top 0.25% of our riders probably will pay even more attention to their bike and do just as good of a job as we will. And like I get that, like Nathan,
Right.
he probably should work on his own bike.
Right.
Because he is good enough at it and enjoys it enough, and all of that adds up to, and is particular enough about it and can deliver his own expectations
in a timely manner too.
Right. And he knows what his expectations are and all that, right?
Yep.
If you're that person who's really good at it and very particular and has trust issues, it makes a lot of sense too.
I mean, because when you're riding your bike, that trust little, like the fact knowing that you did it yourself.
For most riders, I think the confidence level goes up when the shop does it. And I think for most riders, that is an accurate understanding of reality.
That is true.
I will acknowledge that there is such a thing as a home mechanic who's good enough that the accurate understanding of the world means that their trust actually goes up when they do it. I think those people, there's more people who think they're that person than who are that person.
Right. And knowing where your skill, where your trust should start leaning on the path is also a good self-awareness test.
Right. So there was a time when I was working on bikes every day where the way for me to have the highest level of confidence in my bike was for me to do it myself.
Right.
Now, there's only a couple of jobs on the bike where I feel like my trust even stays high when I do it compared to having the shop do it. Right. So like I haven't bled the most modern version of guides or codes. So for me, it's going to be my first time bleeding them if I bleed my brakes, bleeding that model. I've bled tons of brakes.
Right.
I think that if I do it, I would have a high level of trust in my first time doing it, but not as high as if one of our techs does it.
Right. Yeah.
So,
because they're doing this particular, they've gone through the SRAM training or what have you, and they see the pathway of doing this.
Most of them have failed at it at least once and learned from it.
Yeah.
So I still have that to do, maybe.
Right.
But yeah, each brake has a little bit its own idiosyncrasies and orders and processes that work best.
Right.
Get the best results.
Yeah.
And when it comes to bleeding, by best, I mean most consistently.
Right.
Good.
Success. Right. Yeah, that's and when it comes to brakes and hydraulics, that's one thing that it's hard to get that confidence higher at home than it is at higher at home in a timely manner than at the shop.
Yeah. And really, like if I'm going to service a fork that I've never serviced before, I'm going to spend more time looking up torque specs and oil levels and oil weights than a tech here is going to take to do the job.
Right. Right. Let alone
and even maybe finding those
exactly.
things.
Exactly. Yeah. That is very true. Yeah. So this is a good time to bring your stuff into the shop.
Yeah.
Awesome.
How about all that to say?
How about inventory?
I would say, we started talking about being overstocked at the Path and as an industry, I think probably in August or September, or maybe October. I think that at the Path, we are roughly halfway through the process of getting our inventory right-sized.
Great.
Which is good. It feels good.
Yeah.
We're all... that thing, this is one of my favorite metaphors, is that thing where if you're underwater by like say feet, it really doesn't feel that difference if you're underwater by inches or feet. So we're still underwater. Yeah. Right. So it's still a really good time to come to the Path and like get a 2022 bike on clearance. We're still
all the Konas can be shipped.
We're still highly motivated. Yeah. Oh, and we still have tons of bikes on sale. And so we are kind of turning the corner to where we're starting to buy certain bikes on sale so that we can sell them on sale.
Oh.
So I think that's going to be a trend through the spring,
Right.
As some of the prices that you're seeing in the store now that were just for in-store, they're slowly starting to become, oh, we'll special order you that bike and give you that same price, because now the price that we paid for it is now 25%. The price of the ones we have is starting to be higher than what we can get it for by about 20 to 25% in some cases, 15% in other cases.
Right.
And there's still just a few hot bikes that make it hard to make our inventory go down, because like Transition got some repeaters in stock and I couldn't say no. Right. So it's like, that 2 repeaters kind of really hurts the number on trying to lower the inventory by a big number, but it's cool. I don't think those will be around for very long.
Right. What size are those?
Medium and large.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Carbon repeater, which is the EP8 battery, and GX builds. Nice, good Fox suspension.
Yeah. I'm going to have to walk around the shop afterwards.
Find the Easter egg.
Exactly.
You remember somewhere along the line we talked on the podcast about whether you wet carbon bars when you cut them?
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if our techs were doing that. Right. I checked. They are. I was glad to see that they are.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep the carbon dust down.
Yeah. And, again, when I was cutting a lot of bars in the workshop, it was before a lot of bars were carbon.
Yeah.
And I did I think the last years that I was spending a significant amount of time wrenching on bikes, like say over 5 to 10 hours a week, was probably 2007, 2006. Okay. And so there were carbon bars coming through the workshop, but it was the minority. Right. And we just didn't have the awareness yet to wet them.
So you taped them.
We taped them, and that helps.
And then you cut them.
And somewhere along the line, our staff must have picked up the kind of the new information and implemented it culturally.
Because there's so few. That's probably the vast majority of bars now is the carbon.
On the bikes we sell, it's at least half. I would say.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit about new brakes, and you're saying bleeding brakes, but. Man, did I make a mistake? I don't make mistakes. I'm kidding. Did I make a mistake? I don't know. I just went with when I bought my Trans SE, I think there was a set of Hayes Dominions on there.
Those seem to be kind of the talk of the staff right now. So I think Val and Brian have them. I know Zach is a huge advocate. He says they're the best brakes he's ever had. The lever action is super light.
Oh, interesting.
Like it barely takes any force to move the levers, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Lever shape is good. I'm interested. We got a bunch in like just the other day.
Yeah.
Rotor thickness is 1.95. I found that to be interesting.
Whoa, what?
1.95.
That's exactly the opposite of the trend.
It's not exactly the opposite of the trend, because the trend is going from 1.8 to 2.
The opposite is, but it's
still up from the old rotor standard.
Okay, 1.8 to 1.95.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's an interesting, like navigating the difference.
I think on a recent podcast I misspoke and said some rotors were 2.2.
Right.
There's 2s. I think there's some that are like 2.3 maybe. But I don't think there are 2.2s. Most of them have gone up to 2. So 1.95 is like kind of right there, I guess.
Yeah.
Sort of. Are they making fun of Dub? I don't know.
Yeah.
Recommended minimum rotor thickness on those is 1.7. I just happen to remember.
That's a good factoid.
But that's got me, this whole rotor thickness conversation has got me thinking too that minimum rotor thickness by then, if people are noticing big improvements going from 1.8 to 2, minimum rotor thicknesses, by the time you get to them, you've lost performance.
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, it's weird, huh?
Like just overheating your brakes.
I think the idea is that
propensity to overheat.
More mass your rotor has, the more heat it can absorb.
I agree.
Before the rotor.
I think that's true.
Yeah, and then also that also adds surface area, which also dissipates heat.
Yeah, Hayes Dominions. I don't know where I would put those.
On the downhill bike you're going to build.
That is so true. Okay, so we were talking about that before the
Was it before the show?
Just before the show.
We were talking about how we kind of want to build downhill bikes.
And this has taken 3 shows maybe to come to fruition.
This
I think we mentioned it. Yeah, a downhill bike.
I was telling you that the thing that's kind of got me fired up about building a downhill bike is that I've never owned a downhill bike with Cushcore.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's an experience I have to have before I get any more too much older.
Yeah.
Or any more too old.
Too much older.
I'm too old already really to really properly enjoy that experience, I feel like.
Right. But when you get
it's going to get worse.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah.
Dude, seriously. I think it's going to be way worse by the time you get to my age. I'm kidding. We could still.
Odds are.
That is true. But we're going to maintain. We're going to maintain.
We're trying.
Slow. We're going to. Yeah, so downhill. Man, there's so many questions here. Fork. What fork would you run? What frame would you be looking at?
I've been hearing really good things about the Dorado.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I mean.
Is it still upside down?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I'd be tempted to do a Dorado.
Okay.
I feel like the 40 or the Boxer would always be good choices.
Of course.
Nothing else is really on my radar for this build.
Oh, the Dorado.
I wonder if the
if it's going to be
Boxer has the buttercups.
Oh yeah.
Because if it does, I maybe would be tempted with the newest Boxer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Frames, the 8th generation V10.
I think I'd probably be looking at the TR11.
I could fully support that.
I do like the V10. I am interested in that V10.
Yeah.
And that'd be an interesting one too.
Yeah.
The only TR11 in the shop right now, I think, is Zach's. He weighed it today. No, he weighed a different bike today at 36.66 pounds.
What?
He was weighing his bike. He's like, oh, the devil. It was 36.66 pounds.
Oh, man.
I put a video of that on my stories today, actually.
I think he's trying to get another bike up to the true devil, 66.6 pounds.
Oh, jeez.
He was talking about
Is it going to have a throttle? Jeez, that's too much.
That is.
So I would do mixed. It would for me. It would
wheel.
have to be something designed around mixed wheels. I feel like.
Yep.
I'd want that. I guess I'm looking for somewhere around a 63-degree head angle.
Man, I saw a.
Should we make spreadsheets?
You might have to. I saw a gearbox downhill bike.
Yeah.
Like it says as slack as 61.5.
Ooh. So it's adjustable geometry and in the slack position at 61.5.
61.5.
What is it in the steep position?
Like 63.5 or something like that. I don't know for sure, but yeah, we're around there. I mean, isn't the TR11 62.5 or something?
That sounds about right.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
I just need a frame and a fork.
And here's a question. Why would bicycles have slacker head angles than dirt bikes?
Is that right?
I haven't checked lately, but last time I checked, like KTM 350 EXC or whatever, or popular trail desert dirt bikes were in the 64 head angle range, I think 63, 64.
Does it have to do with maybe there's less of riding pointed downhill versus pointed uphill?
Steeper descents for sure on a downhill bike.
Right. Maybe. I have no...
That's a really good point because that dirt bike does have to go uphill good too. It's not a downhill dirt bike.
Yeah. Well, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Oh my gosh. I was riding my e-bike uphill the other day and I just reminded myself, I wish I would have started riding dirt bikes, motos.
Yeah? Maybe it's not too late.
Maybe. I don't know.
Oh, man. I would love it if you got a dirt bike.
I know.
That'd be so fun for me.
Oh, man.
We could act so juvenile.
That would be a hard full disclosure, though, to bring a dirt bike home. You know,
I could imagine that might be a tough pitch, tough sell.
Yeah,
maybe could cause some concern.
You ever see that show Breaking Bad?
Yeah, I did. I didn't get super into it. I just saw a couple episodes.
Oh my gosh, I'm binge watching right now. I don't watch a lot of TV. I'm kidding. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I'm binge watching this one, and there's so much deception in the marriage relationship there. It's like so uncomfortable. But yeah, so that comment I just made is like
it's pretty triggering.
It is right now. Anyways, so downhill bikes, TR11, Santa Cruz, Generation 8 Santa Cruz, maybe the Dorado, mixed wheel size with Cushcore. Cushcore. Have you seen the new stickers in the Cushcore boxes?
No.
If anyone's bought a set of Cushcore inserts lately, the little Cushcore stickers are pretty dang cool. They're the high quality vinyl cut, thick stickers. They're green. They're kind of like a rim, like what do you call that? Cross section of a rim with a tire and the Cushcore, and then there's topo lines running through the sticker. Pretty dang cool. So I put a set of Cushcore on my Chamois Hagar. It's Chamois Hagar is a gravel, really aggressive slack
special gravel Cushcore, or
it is the CX gravel Cushcore, whatever CX. They're supposed to be max of 47 millimeter tires. So I'm running the Ramblers, Maxxis Ramblers. They're 50 millimeters, but if you put a pair of calipers on it, they're less than 50. The casing's less than 50. So running the CX on that, I'm running 20 psi, and I think that might be too much pressure.
I think so.
Yeah. I did a ride out in the Oaks, and again, what a difference a day makes. I think I caught it on the first day that the park opened. I probably was one of the first riders in because I did an early morning ride, and I did the Weir Canyon loop. It's a big kind of pedally loop, but with some cool descents and what have you. Man, that Cushcore makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Holy moly. Yeah.
Do you feel like you felt it on the climbs?
That's the surprising thing. Maybe I'm not in good enough shape right now to think like, oh my gosh, this is totally holding me back. But I didn't feel like I was holding me back. Maybe I'm getting used to going slower.
I have this theory that elite cross-country racers are secretly running Cushcore.
I think so,
and
too.
I want some of our listeners to let me know if it's true.
I know for sure. I don't know for sure, but I thought I remember reading a story where Kate Courtney, world class World Cup champion cross-country rider, was riding Cushcore.
I suspect that the added climbing traction mostly or somewhat offsets the added weight.
Yeah, I could see that.
And the less bouncing around is more efficient.
And I wonder too, with the aggressive nature of these cross-country courses, they seem to be getting more aggressive these days, if the fatigue of just getting beat up on the descents.
100%. Well, and just even not the descents.
Right.
Just all the beating up.
Right.
And the mental fatigue of keeping the bike going straight.
Right. So, yeah, I'd like to hear that. It felt great. So, yeah, probably put, 17 miles on it that day with Cushcore on the first try. Again, 20 PSI. I think I'm going to keep dropping it. Maybe, I don't know. What do you think? 18 in the rear, 16 in the front.
I think you're supposed to drop it until you're almost touching the Cushcore.
Yeah, that would probably be 16 and 18 or something.
But I think that's maybe for gravel riding conditions, which probably isn't Oaks.
It's not.
So maybe a little higher than that.
Or maybe not.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's true. Maybe a slightly higher.
maybe you should give yourself, say, like 8 millimeters above the Cushcore of air conditioning.
Exactly. I was wondering how they measure that.
Set your tire sag.
Exactly. Yeah, but definitely I feel like 20, I could have gone lower.
I would think.
Yeah. Especially because 50 millimeters, that's 2 inches. So that's almost an old school cross country mountain bike tire.
Well, no, because 195
Yeah.
was the size for 26 by 195.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, I'm going to do that. I think, man, I'm really, sad for many reasons, but Salsa had a recall on their super wide drop bar.
Yeah.
Can't wait till they get that ironed out, because I think having super wide drop bars and maybe one of those stems that has a little bit of give in it.
What would be one of those?
Man, I forget the name of it. If any of our listeners know the stems that have a little bit of like vibration damping built in, I would love to get one of those on the Chamois Hagar. I think it would be great. Super wide bars, a little bit of vibration damping in the stem.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Cushcore is the answer to everything, all our problems in life. And I also put a set of Cushcore in my Trant SE. I haven't ridden it much. And with the, I think it's Ardent front, and is it an Icon back or Aspen rear tire? And I can't wait to ride that.
I can't wait for the ride report.
Yeah, totally. Next time. So I had a chance this week to ride both push bikes because of all the rain and e-bike. Man, does e-bike actually build mental toughness like push biking?
I was talking to a customer / friend the other day, and it's been a common conversation in the shop of trying to explain to someone who hasn't ridden an e-bike what the nature of the workout is on an e-bike, or can be, or often is.
Can be, not always.
Well, and same with a push bike, right? Totally. You got to pedal hard to pedal hard.
Totally.
So I think we've been talking for a while about how I think most people get more cardio on the e-bike, but less strength training.
Sure. Yeah.
So
less of that anaerobic
power, straight power.
Yep, I agree.
And I think that's pretty clear to see. You can feel it if you ride the bikes, and you can see it in your heart rate readouts and stuff.
Yep.
And, I definitely get more beats per minute per hour on my e-bike, more heartbeats per minute or per hour on my e-bike than I usually do on my
there's less time in
e-bike.
that 4 and 5 kind of like range. Like
I spend almost no time in the red zone.
Yep.
All yellow zone and orange zone, nonstop.
Yeah.
But it occurred to me that what the e-bike really doesn't build is that mental toughness. Because when back in the day we would leave it in the middle ring on a climb that you thought you could never do that in, and it turns out the difference is pretty much just like take the pain.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And so you'd build that mental toughness and that ability to overcome your body sending the signal that you can't do this,
then you can,
right? And I think the e-bike doesn't really do that the same way.
Doesn't give you as many breakthrough workout moments.
Yeah, where you push yourself past your comfort
and
level.
Then that breakthrough allows you to see what normal could be, or what you can accomplish.
Yeah,
from a output perspective.
Yeah, I think totally. So there's that. But even just as we're talking about this, I got to thinking about a different kind of mental strongness where, when certain like cross-country racers and endurance athletes and roadies, I would describe it their riding, certain, not all.
Yeah.
There's certain people from those disciplines who I would describe their riding style all the time as like a tired dog. That's how they train. That's how they ride, right? Exhausted, beat, like barely have the energy to keep their bike going straight, let alone like be bouncy on their pedals and be efficient through and pump anything or anything like that, right? let alone have the energy to shred the bike for
Sure.
right.
It's just surviving the downhills.
Just surviving the whole ride.
Right.
And the riding style looks like they're in survival from even when they're fresh. Right.
Sure.
And maybe they immediately lock their arms, or I mean, there's these riders, and I'm not trying to talk down to about anyone's riding. A lot of these people will definitely be faster than me on group ride,
right?
But the riding style looks tired, looks exhausted, and doesn't look fresh or springy or bouncy or confident in any way.
Yeah,
and I think you'll see that like shuttle riders and people who have time at bike parks sometimes have a spring to their ride, like a bounce to their ride, and a smoothness and a pep and a confidence that leads to more efficiency in the long run, but also to just being able to shred a lot harder.
Right.
And I do, and I started noticing this when I first started doing shuttle rides. And I would ride a trail that I had ridden before with fresh I'd ride a trail I'd ride a downhill run for the first time in my life with fresh legs.
Yeah.
And I noticed how different the trail seemed.
Yeah.
And I think that as I got into downhill racing and did more shuttle rides and started riding park sometimes, I really noticed that it's a whole different riding style.
Yeah.
And it's not just shred signaling when you get on the bike and do a couple little bounces and a couple little cutties, cutty, bounce.
Right.
It's not just shred signaling. That is tuning into the bike and having some bounce to your ride or whatever, some pep. And I do that's a form of mental tough when your riding style reflects that approach. Yeah. That's a form of mental toughness also. And I do think that I remember times when I was putting in a lot of hours on the e-bike, noticing that side of mental toughness building.
I was going to say that it's a different, like the ability to have that focus and sharpness on the descents for that length of time.
And the confidence and muscle memory and twitchiness and all that, right?
Yeah. Oh, on the e-bike, that is actually what I was going to say as a counterpoint to the quote mental toughness.
Yeah. It's like, it's kind of one of these middle way topics, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, because I have noticed that where on the e-bike, again, you do twice as much descending. And that's a lot of descending to maintain that level of focus, even when you're fresh, right? Even when you're fresh and you're like, okay, I'm hitting this trail for the second time, and that 3-minute level of focus. Yeah.
During the time I was describing where I was riding the e-bike a lot, I was noticing that without planning it or thinking about it, I was doing a lot of moves where I would weight the bike and unweight into a different line. And that was just happening so naturally and fluidly. And that's a different compared to
tired dog, like sometimes just like, you know, like, oh, survive that.
Yeah. So it's different what different things build up and what different things get challenged on different bikes.
I think, again, this past weekend, I need both. And again, putting Cushcore on the chamois Hagar really helps because it kind of goads you on to pedal hard on the uphills and like through maybe sections that you might on a regular mountain bike just kind of like ease your way through. But having the Cushcore and the chamois Hagar kind of like, push through that, and like it rewards you.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't penalize you for pedaling hard.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's good. And the stickers are cool. Almost worth the price of admission.
Oh my gosh. $75 sticker.
Exactly. At least you pay $75 or whatever, and you get a cool sticker with it. So anyways, I
had a moment in the shop the other day. We closed the shop, and I was just kind of walking around thinking about business and the day. And I started staring at the new Scott Genius.
Oh.
And I was looking at it, and I noticed it's got a HorstLink. And I don't know if I ever said this on the show or not, but I was under the impression that was a flex day bike like the Spark.
I think
it was a pretty big revelation for me.
it's too bad we don't have one that we're looking at right now. But, yeah,
But for riders who don't know,
yeah.
HorstLink was patented. I believe it's now
I think
open,
so. Right.
or, past its patent period. But the definition of a HorstLink is that there is a pivot in front of and below the dropout.
Yep.
Out by the dropout.
Correct.
I don't know quite how close to the dropout it has to be a HorstLink, but it has to be in front of and below.
Right.
And what it does is, I think it isolates the bike a little bit from brake interference, from the suspension changing when you use the brakes, and it allows for a different wheel path than just the arc of a single pivot.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Genius is a HorstLink.
Yeah. So it should be real plush, much plusher than I was picturing it.
All right.
And very kind of controlled and balanced feeling suspension.
All the way through.
Experience. Yeah.
It's good until it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So other brands that use that would be like Norco.
Yep. Specialized.
Yep. Specialized owned it for a while. They bought it from Horst. There's actually cool story. Luke's dad used to work for Horst, the guy who invented the HorstLink.
Yeah. That is
we have all kinds of crazy back in the day when Specialized was just about to buy that patent, or just had.
All right.
They were coming in here.
Yeah.
And remember the amp bikes back in the day?
Mm-hmm.
They were crazy looking, and they had the amp fork with the linkage fork. The fork was a linkage fork.
Yeah. I think Nathan worked there too.
I think he did.
Yeah, when he was
I know he knows
in his
Horst.
career. Yeah. So are you ever going to get I'd love to demo a Genius.
Yeah.
Someday.
Maybe someday. But I'm glad you brought that up, because we are relaunching our demo program.
Oh, dang, really?
Yes. The first...
That wasn't planned, by the way.
We have one demo bike, and the program is not live yet.
Okay.
I think by the time this show airs, it probably will be live.
Nice.
So you'll be able to go on our website and book and pay for the bike. And then you can pick it up at whichever shop you designate.
What bike might that be, or can you say?
It's a small Mach 6.
Oh, nice.
Once we demo that one out a couple of times and it goes well, and we know our system works, we'll add another one. Probably be a medium or a large bike of some kind.
Yeah.
And I would say we're going to scale it up as quickly as we can without causing, and still deliver good experiences to the riders.
Right.
So I would say hopefully within a couple months we'll have half a dozen or a dozen demo bikes, and that'll grow from there. Before the pandemic, I think at our peak of demoing, I think we had about 80 demo bikes at any given time.
So is there anything particular about working with Pivot that makes that the first into the demo?
We, Tori, who does our social media, we wanted to get her a bike to ride.
Right.
And the condition was that it had to also be a demo bike. So we got her a bike to ride, and that's the one that fits her.
Sure.
Also, I wanted to choose a bike that would, the size that has the highest demand is large. The size that has the second highest demand is medium, and the size that has the third highest demand is extra large. So I wanted to pick a size that would have low-ish demand in order to test the system with the least amount of stress.
Sure. Yeah, that accomplishes a couple goals.
Maybe small people who can't kill me if it goes wrong. Just kidding. That small people can totally kill me.
I think we might be small people.
Definitely. Well, it depends what your scale is.
That is true.
Because I'm almost a large T-shirt these days.
Oh my gosh!
I was looking at someone's size chart for T-shirts, and I noticed that the cutoff to large was 180, and I'm battling to stay under 180. I'm winning the battle.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I don't think I have been to 180 briefly a couple times in my life, but I don't plan on hanging out there.
Man.
So I guess I'll stay mostly a medium.
Right. I'm battling to stay a medium on the other side.
Yeah, you could turn small from all the running you're doing.
I could turn small. I have turned small in some spaces, but no, yeah, I think I'm going to be. I'll stay medium for a while. Yeah,
nice.
So, anyways,
I think that might be a
I think
podcast.
that might be a podcast too, man.
All right. Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Auk. Thank you, listeners. Thank you to the staff and all of our vendors that we work with. And big thanks to all of our customer riders. Let's all remember to love the bike we ride.